At Lincoln High School, there was a man named Marcus Johnson. He wasn't a teacher or a coach, and he didn't have an office with his name on the door. Instead, Marcus spent his days pushing a mop down long hallways, emptying trash cans in classrooms, and fixing broken desks that no one else wanted to deal with. To most students, he was just the janitor, someone they passed by without giving much thought. But if you paid close enough attention, you'd notice something special about him. Marcus was tall and lean, with graying hair that always seemed neat despite the hard work he did every day. His hands were calloused from years of scrubbing floors and carrying heavy supplies, but his eyes held a warmth that made people feel comfortable. Whenever a student dropped their books in the hallway, Marcus would stop what he was doing to help them pick everything up. If someone looked upset sitting alone at lunch, he'd sit nearby and ask if they were okay. It wasn't anything big, just small acts of kindness. But those moments stayed with people longer than they realized. What many didn't know about Marcus was that his life outside of school wasn't easy. After finishing his shift at Lincoln High, he drove home to a small house on the edge of town where his elderly mother lived. She had been sick for years, and Marcus took care of her as best as he could. Between paying bills, buying groceries, and making sure she had her medications, money was tight. But Marcus never complained. Not once did anyone hear him say how hard things were or ask for help. He simply kept showing up to work each morning with a quiet determination that earned him respect from the few who noticed. One thing that added to Marcus's struggles was his car, or rather, the lack of one. For years he had relied on an old sedan that barely ran anymore. The engine sputtered whenever he turned the key, and more often than not it left him stranded somewhere between school and home. On some days he had to walk miles just to get back to his mother. Still, Marcus refused to let these challenges slow him down. He woke up earlier, planned his routes carefully, and somehow managed to arrive at school on time almost every single day. Despite all this, Marcus loved his job. There was something about being part of a place like Lincoln High that gave him purpose. Watching students grow and learn reminded him of why he worked so hard, even when nobody thanked him for cleaning up spills in the cafeteria or fixing a leaky faucet in the science lab. Marcus knew he was contributing to something bigger than himself, and though he might not have said it out loud, he hoped that someday someone would see how much effort he put into keeping the school running smoothly. It wasn't until one ordinary Tuesday afternoon that two students began to notice Marcus, in a way others hadn't. Alex Carter and Jordan Mitchell were seniors at Lincoln High, both known for being thoughtful and kind. That day they happened to be walking past the teacher's lounge during lunch break when they overheard a conversation. Their history teacher, Mrs. Peterson, was talking to another staff member about Marcus. "Did you hear about Marcus's car breaking down again?" Mrs. Peterson asked, shaking her head. "Poor guy. I don't think he can afford to fix it this time." The other teacher sighed. "I know. He mentioned it to me last week. Said he's been walking home after work because he doesn't want to miss any shifts. Can you imagine? With everything else he's dealing with?" Alex glanced at Jordan, her eyebrows furrowed. "Wait," she whispered. "Marcus walks home? How far is that?" Jordan shrugged. "Pretty far, I think. Remember when we saw him near the gas station last month? That's not even halfway to his neighborhood." The two friends exchanged looks, their minds racing. They had always liked Marcus. He was one of the few adults at school who treated everyone equally, whether they were star athletes or kids struggling to pass classes. Hearing about his struggles hit them differently now. It wasn't just about the car. It was about everything Marcus did behind the scenes, unnoticed and unappreciated. Later that evening, Alex and Jordan sat together in the library, brainstorming ideas. At first, they considered simple gestures, like leaving notes of gratitude around the school, or organizing a small fundraiser during lunch. But the more they talked, the more they realized Marcus deserved something greater, something that would make a real difference in his life. "What if we got him a new car?" Alex blurted out suddenly. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant, as if she couldn't believe she'd said it aloud. Jordan stared at her wide-eyed. "A car? Do you know how much that costs?" "I mean, not a new car," Alex clarified quickly. "A used one. Something reliable that won't break down every week. We could raise money, get the whole school involved. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The idea felt impossible, too ambitious for high school students to pull off. Yet, the more they thought about it, the more it made sense. Marcus had given so much to the school without expecting anything in return. Why shouldn't they try to give back to him? By the end of the night, Alex and Jordan had drafted a rough plan. They decided to start small, reaching out to a few trusted classmates to gauge interest. Rachel Lee, a junior with a talent for organizing events, immediately agreed to help. So did Kevin Morales, a senior who was well connected with local businesses. Together, the four of them formed a secret group dedicated to making Marcus's life a little easier. Over the next few weeks, the group worked tirelessly. They organized bake sales, selling cookies and brownies during lunch periods. They set up donation boxes in classrooms and spread flyers encouraging students to contribute whatever they could. Slowly but surely, word began to spread throughout the school. What started as a small project among friends grew into a movement involving nearly everyone at Lincoln High. Throughout it all, Marcus remained completely unaware of what was happening. Every time he walked by the bustling activity in the cafeteria or saw posters advertising fundraisers, he assumed it was just another school event. No one gave him a reason to suspect otherwise. In fact, Alex and Jordan went out of their way to keep things normal, chatting with him casually and asking about his weekend plans as if nothing unusual was going on. Behind the scenes, however, the group faced its share of challenges. Some students doubted they could raise enough money to buy a car, while others struggled to balance their involvement with schoolwork and extracurriculars. There were moments when frustration crept in, and it felt like the goal was slipping further away. But every time someone suggested giving up, Alex reminded them of why they started this in the first place. "Think about Marcus," she'd say firmly. "He shows up here every day, rain or shine, even when his own life is falling apart. If he can keep going, so can we." Her words inspired the group to push forward, and eventually, their efforts paid off. By the end of the month, they had raised enough money to purchase a modest yet dependable sedan. Alex's uncle, who owned a local auto shop, agreed to help them find the perfect vehicle within their budget. When the car was finally delivered to the school parking lot, covered with a tarp to keep it hidden, the entire group gathered around, beaming with pride. They still had one final hurdle to overcome: surprising Marcus. Planning the reveal required careful coordination. Principal Williams agreed to play along, calling an impromptu assembly under the guise of a spirit rally. Everyone was instructed to act casual until the big moment arrived. As nervous excitement filled the air, Alex and Jordan couldn't help but wonder how Marcus would react. Finally, the day came. The entire school gathered in the parking lot, buzzing with anticipation. Marcus stood at the edge of the crowd, looking slightly confused, but willing to go along with whatever was happening. When Alex stepped forward with a microphone, her heart pounding, she locked eyes with Marcus and smiled. "Mr. Johnson," she began, her voice steady despite the nerves twisting in her stomach, "we know you've always been there for us, for this school, even when no one noticed. Today we want to say thank you." As she gestured toward the covered car, the tarp was pulled away, revealing the shiny blue sedan beneath. Time seemed to stand still as Marcus stared at the gift, tears welling up in his eyes. For a moment, no one moved. Then the silence broke, erupting into cheers and applause that echoed across the parking lot. Marcus's reaction was everything Alex and Jordan had hoped for, and more. Though they couldn't have known it then, this moment would mark the beginning of something extraordinary, not just for Marcus, but for the entire Lincoln High community. The idea of surprising Marcus with a car began to take shape quickly, but it wasn't without its challenges. Alex and Jordan knew they couldn't pull off something this big alone. They needed help, lots of it. The first step was reaching out to people they trusted. Rachel Lee, who had organized dozens of school events in the past, was their first choice. She had a knack for rallying people together and making things happen. Kevin Morales, another senior, was also brought into the group because of his connections with local businesses. Together, the four of them formed a secret team dedicated to making Marcus's life better. At their first meeting, held late one afternoon in an empty classroom, the group brainstormed ideas. "We need to raise money," Alex said, tapping her pen against her notebook. "But how do we get everyone involved without letting Marcus know what we're doing?" Rachel leaned forward, her eyes lighting up. "What if we make it seem like a regular school fundraiser? People are used to bake sales and donation drives. We can just say it's for a mystery project or something." Jordan nodded. "That could work, and we can spread the word slowly. Start with our friends, then let it grow from there." Kevin chimed in. "I can talk to some of the shops downtown. Maybe they'll donate stuff we can sell or even give us a discount on supplies." With a basic plan in place, the group split up tasks. Rachel took charge of organizing events while Kevin reached out to businesses. Alex and Jordan focused on spreading the word among students, making sure to keep everything low-key so Marcus wouldn't catch on. The very next week, the first bake sale was set up in the cafeteria during lunch. Tables were lined with trays of cookies, brownies, and cupcakes donated by students and their families. Posters hung around the school advertised the event as a mystery fundraiser, sparking curiosity among the student body. At first, turnout was modest, but as word spread about the mysterious cause behind the sale, more and more students showed up to buy treats. One day, as Marcus passed by the bustling tables, he stopped to glance at the activity. "What's all this for?" he asked casually, addressing no one in particular. Alex froze for a second before smiling brightly. "Oh, it's just a school thing," she replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "You know, raising money for stuff." Marcus chuckled softly. "Stuff, huh? Well, good luck with that." He gave her a friendly nod and continued on his way, completely unaware that he was the reason behind the entire effort. As the days went by, the group expanded their efforts. Donation boxes appeared in every classroom, encouraging students to contribute spare change or even larger amounts if they could. Some teachers got involved too, slipping bills into the boxes when no one was looking. One particularly generous teacher, Mr. Simmons, promised to match whatever amount the students raised from his own pocket. Meanwhile, Kevin worked tirelessly to secure support from local businesses. He visited bakeries, coffee shops, and even a car dealership, explaining the situation and asking for donations. To his surprise, many were eager to help. A nearby bakery offered free desserts for the next bake sale, while a mechanic agreed to inspect any potential car purchase to ensure it was in good condition. Even the owner of a small auto shop, Alex's uncle, offered to help find a reliable used vehicle within their budget. Despite the growing momentum, there were moments when the group felt overwhelmed. Raising enough money for a car seemed like an impossible task at times. Some students doubted they'd ever reach their goal, and others struggled to balance their involvement with schoolwork and extracurricular activities. There were days when frustration crept in, and it felt like the finish line was slipping further away. One evening, after a particularly tough day, the group met in the library to regroup. Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. "Guys, I don't know if we can keep this up. What if we run out of time?" Alex shook her head firmly. "We can't give up now. Think about Marcus. He shows up here every single day, rain or shine, even though his life is falling apart. If he can keep going, so can we." Her words struck a chord with the others. Jordan nodded, determination returning to his face. "She's right. We've come too far to quit. Let's push through." Encouraged by Alex's resolve, the group decided to double down on their efforts. They planned more events, a silent auction, a talent show, and even a movie night in the gymnasium. Each event brought in more funds and increased awareness about the cause. Slowly but surely, the total amount raised began to climb. By the end of the month, the group gathered in the auto shop owned by Alex's uncle to see what cars were available within their budget. The tension in the air was palpable as they waited for him to bring out options. Finally, he led them to a modest blue sedan parked in the corner of the lot. It wasn't flashy or new, but it was clean, well-maintained, and most importantly, reliable. "This one should work perfectly," Alex's uncle said, patting the hood of the car. "It's got low mileage, and I'll make sure it's in top condition before you take it." The group exchanged excited glances. This was it, the car they'd been working so hard to buy. As they stood there admiring it, Alex felt a surge of pride mixed with disbelief. They had actually done it. Against all odds, they had raised enough money to give Marcus a gift that would change his life. Now came the hardest part, keeping the plan a secret until the big reveal. With only a few days left before the scheduled surprise, the group had to be extra careful. They coordinated with Principal Williams, who agreed to call an impromptu assembly under the guise of a spirit rally. Everyone was instructed to act casual around Marcus, pretending nothing unusual was happening. On the morning of the reveal, the atmosphere at Lincoln High was electric. Students whispered excitedly in the hallways, exchanging knowing glances whenever Marcus walked by. Teachers did their best to play along, feigning ignorance about the true purpose of the assembly. For his part, Marcus remained blissfully unaware, continuing with his usual routine of cleaning classrooms and tidying up the cafeteria. Finally, the moment arrived. The entire school gathered in the parking lot, buzzing with anticipation. Principal Williams stood at the front, looking slightly confused but willing to go along with whatever the students had planned. As Marcus arrived, unsure of why everyone was outside, Alex stepped forward with a microphone and addressed the crowd. "Mr. Johnson," she began, her voice trembling with emotion, "we know you've always been there for us, for this school, even when no one noticed. Today we want to say thank you." With those words, the tarp covering the car was pulled away, revealing the shiny blue sedan beneath. Time seemed to stop as Marcus stared at the gift, tears streaming down his face. For a moment, the only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind. Then, the silence broke, erupting into cheers and applause that echoed across the parking lot. Marcus's reaction was everything the group had hoped for, and more. Overwhelmed with gratitude, he struggled to find the right words. I don't know what to say," he stammered, shaking his head in disbelief. This is incredible." Principal Williams stepped forward, visibly moved. "Marcus, you've given so much to this school, it's about time we gave back to you." As the celebration continued, Marcus finally found his voice. "Thank you," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "Thank you all so much. I never expected anything like this. You kids, you didn't have to do this." But the story didn't end there. What followed in the days and weeks afterward would leave an even deeper impact on the Lincoln High community, proving that kindness has a ripple effect that touches everyone it encounters. The moment the tarp was pulled off the car, revealing the shiny blue sedan beneath, Marcus Johnson stood frozen. His eyes widened as he took in the sight of the vehicle that had been purchased for him. For a few seconds, no one moved or spoke. The entire school held its breath, watching and waiting for Marcus's reaction. Then, tears began streaming down his face. He shook his head slowly, unable to believe what he was seeing. I don't know what to say," Marcus stammered, his voice breaking with emotion. This is too much." The students erupted into cheers, clapping and shouting words of encouragement. Some even whistled, their excitement filling the air. Principal Williams stepped forward, visibly moved by the scene unfolding before him. "Marcus," he said warmly, "you've given so much to this school. It's about time we gave back to you." As the applause continued, Alex Carter approached Marcus, holding out her hand. "We wanted to do something to show how much you mean to us," she explained softly. Her eyes were glistening with tears as she added, "You're always there for us, even when we don't notice. Now it's our turn to be there for you." Marcus looked around at the sea of smiling faces surrounding him. Teachers, students, and even some parents who had come to watch the event were all cheering for him. He felt overwhelmed, not just by the car, but by the love and gratitude pouring out from everyone present. Finally, he managed to speak. "I can't thank you all enough," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This means more to me than you'll ever know." But the story didn't stop there. After the initial shock wore off, Marcus realized something important. He needed to share his own truth. He raised his hand slightly, signaling for the crowd to quiet down. As the noise subsided, he took a deep breath and began to speak. "There's something I need to tell you all," Marcus said, his tone becoming serious. The students exchanged curious glances, wondering what he was about to say. Even Principal Williams leaned in, intrigued. "A few weeks ago," Marcus continued, "I got some news about my mom. She's been sick for a long time, and lately, her condition has gotten worse. Her medical bills are piling up, and I've been trying to figure out how to take care of her while still keeping my job here at the school." He paused, looking down at the ground for a moment before meeting the eyes of the crowd again. "To be honest, I've been thinking about quitting so I can stay home and look after her full time. But now, with this car," his voice trailed off as he gestured toward the sedan, "now I can keep working and still visit her whenever she needs me." The silence that followed was profound. Students shifted uncomfortably, realizing for the first time just how much Marcus had been carrying on his shoulders. Many of them had known he was struggling, but hearing him talk about his mother's illness and his financial worries made everything feel more real. They understood now why this gift meant so much to him. It wasn't just a car, it was freedom, security, and hope wrapped into one. Rachel Lee, who had helped organize the fundraiser, wiped away tears as she listened to Marcus speak. "We had no idea," she whispered to Alex, her voice trembling. "I mean, we knew things weren't easy for him, but this—" Alex nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "He's been dealing with all of this alone. We did the right thing." Inspired by Marcus's honesty, several teachers decided to take action. Mrs. Peterson, the history teacher who had first mentioned Marcus's struggles to Alex and Jordan, stepped forward. "Marcus," she said firmly, "you shouldn't have to face this alone. Let us help you." Principal Williams nodded in agreement. "That's right," he announced to the crowd. "Starting today, we're creating a community fund to support Marcus and his family. Any donations will go directly toward helping with his mother's medical expenses, and I'll personally match whatever amount we raise." The announcement sent another wave of emotion through the crowd. Students cheered again, this time not just for the car but for the promise of continued support. Some dug into their pockets right then and there, pulling out whatever cash they had to contribute. Others promised to spread the word to friends and family outside the school. Over the next few days, the community fund grew rapidly. Parents, alumni, and even local businesses pitched in, inspired by the story of a humble janitor who had touched so many lives. By the end of the week, the total amount raised was enough to cover several months of Marcus's mother's medical costs. When Principal Williams handed him an envelope containing the first round of funds, Marcus could barely hold back his tears. "This is incredible," he said, clutching the envelope tightly. "I don't know how to repay any of you." "You already have," Principal Williams replied kindly. "Every day you show up here, you remind us what it means to work hard and care deeply. That's payment enough." The impact of the surprise car and the community fund extended far beyond Marcus's personal life. In the weeks that followed, Lincoln High School underwent a noticeable transformation. Students began treating each other and the staff with greater kindness and respect. Small acts of generosity became common. Someone leaving extra snacks in the cafeteria for a classmate who couldn't afford lunch, a group of seniors tutoring underclassmen after school, and even random notes of appreciation taped to lockers and desks. One day, during a morning assembly, Principal Williams addressed the entire school. "What happened here with Marcus reminded us of something important," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "It reminded us that every person matters, whether you're a teacher, a student, or someone like Marcus who works behind the scenes. Your presence makes a difference. Let's carry that lesson forward and make sure no one feels invisible or forgotten." His words resonated deeply with everyone in the room. From that point on, Lincoln High became a place where people actively looked for ways to support one another. Teachers noticed their students putting in extra effort, and students noticed their peers going out of their way to include others. Even Marcus, who had always been quiet and reserved, found himself at the center of a newfound sense of community. Despite the attention he was receiving, Marcus remained humble. He continued doing his job with the same dedication as before, though now he did it with a lighter heart. Knowing that his colleagues and students cared so deeply about him gave him strength on tough days. And whenever someone thanked him for his work, he simply smiled and said, "Just doing my part." As the semester drew to a close, plans were made to honor Marcus in a special way. During the annual awards ceremony, Principal Williams surprised everyone by presenting Marcus with a custom plaque. Engraved on it were the words, "For quiet strength and unwavering dedication, Lincoln High School honors Marcus Johnson." When Marcus accepted the award, the auditorium erupted into applause. Teachers, students, and parents rose to their feet, cheering loudly as tears streamed down many faces. Marcus stood at the podium, clutching the plaque tightly, his emotions raw and unfiltered. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice cracking. "Thank you for seeing me." In that moment, it was clear that Marcus's story had left a lasting mark on Lincoln High. What had started as a simple act of kindness, a group of students buying their janitor a car, had grown into something much bigger. It had sparked a chain reaction of compassion and unity that would continue to shape the school for years to come. And though Marcus tried to downplay his role in it all, everyone knew the truth. He was the heart of Lincoln High, and they were all better for having him in their lives. The weeks following the big reveal of the car and the creation of the community fund brought about changes at Lincoln High that no one had expected. Marcus Johnson, who had always been a quiet and unassuming figure in the background, suddenly found himself at the center of attention. It wasn't just the applause or the awards, it was the way people started treating him differently. Students greeted him with genuine smiles instead of passing nods. Teachers stopped by to chat during breaks, asking how his mother was doing, and if there was anything else they could do to help. Even strangers within the school community began approaching him, inspired by his story. At first, Marcus felt uncomfortable with all the extra attention. He had spent years blending into the background, content to let others shine while he worked quietly behind the scenes. But as time went on, he realized something important. This wasn't about him being put on display. It was about connection. People weren't just noticing him, they were reaching out because they cared. Slowly, Marcus began opening up more, sharing bits of his life with those around him. He talked about his mother's progress, the challenges she still faced, and how much the support from the school meant to both of them. One day during lunch break, Alex Carter and Jordan Mitchell approached Marcus as he sat on a bench near the football field. They carried brown paper bags filled with sandwiches and snacks. "Mind if we join you?" Alex asked, holding up her bag. Marcus smiled and gestured for them to sit. "Of course not," he said warmly. "It's nice to have company." As they ate together, the conversation turned personal. Alex and Jordan learned more about Marcus's childhood, how he had grown up in a small town, helping his parents run a local diner before moving to the city to find work. They heard stories about his late father, a man who had taught him the value of hard work and kindness. He used to say, "If you can make someone's day a little brighter, you've done your job," Marcus recalled, his voice soft with nostalgia. Jordan nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly what you do here," he said. "You've made so many people's days better, even when they didn't realize it." Marcus chuckled softly. "Well, I try my best. But honestly, I think y'all are doing the same thing now. Look at everything you've done for me and for my mom. You've given us hope." Alex blushed slightly, embarrassed by the praise. "We just wanted to help," she said. "But hearing you talk like this makes me glad we did." These moments of connection between Marcus and the students became more frequent. What started as a simple gesture, a group of kids buying their janitor a car, had blossomed into friendships that transcended roles and titles. Marcus wasn't just the janitor anymore. He was a mentor, a confidant, and a friend to many. Meanwhile, the ripple effects of the surprise continued to spread throughout the school. Inspired by the kindness shown to Marcus, students began looking for ways to support one another. A senior named Mia Thompson organized a peer mentoring program, pairing upperclassmen with freshmen who needed guidance navigating high school life. Another student, Liam Parker, launched a recycling initiative to reduce waste on campus, encouraging everyone to take responsibility for their environment. Even small acts of kindness, like leaving sticky notes with positive messages on lockers, became common sights around Lincoln High. Teachers noticed the shift too. Mrs. Peterson, the history teacher, remarked during a staff meeting, "Something feels different about this place. The kids are kinder, more aware of each other. It's like they've realized that everyone has struggles and they want to help." Principal Williams agreed wholeheartedly. "I think Marcus showed them what it means to care," he said. "Sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness to inspire a whole chain reaction." Despite the newfound positivity at Lincoln High, Marcus remained humble. He never sought recognition for his contributions, preferring to stay in the background where he felt most comfortable. Yet, every once in a while, he couldn't escape the spotlight. During one particularly memorable assembly, Principal Williams announced that the school would be dedicating a new plaque in the main hallway. Inscribed on it were the words, "In honor of Marcus Johnson, a true hero who taught us the power of kindness." When Marcus saw the plaque for the first time, he stood silently, overcome with emotion. Students gathered around him, clapping and cheering, but Marcus simply shook his head. "I'm no hero," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the noise. "I'm just doing what anyone would do." But the truth was, Marcus wasn't just anyone. His quiet strength, resilience, and unwavering dedication had touched countless lives. Whether it was fixing a broken desk, offering a listening ear, or showing up to work every day despite his own struggles, Marcus had become a role model without even trying. And though he might have resisted the label of hero, everyone else at Lincoln High knew better. As the semester drew to a close, preparations began for the annual end-of-year celebration. This year, however, the event took on special significance. Instead of focusing solely on academic achievements or athletic victories, the ceremony highlighted acts of kindness and community service. Awards were handed out not just to star students and athletes, but also to those who had gone above and beyond to help others. When it came time for Marcus to receive his award, a standing ovation erupted throughout the auditorium. Students, teachers, and parents rose to their feet, applauding loudly as Principal Williams presented Marcus with a framed certificate of appreciation. "Marcus," the principal said, his voice filled with emotion, "you remind us every day what it means to serve with humility and grace. Thank you for being an inspiration to us all." Tears welled up in Marcus's eyes as he accepted the certificate. For someone who had spent so much of his life avoiding the limelight, this moment felt surreal. But as he looked out at the sea of smiling faces, he realized something profound. He belonged here. Not as a janitor, not as a hero, but as a valued member of a community that truly cared. After the ceremony, Alex and Jordan caught up with Marcus outside the auditorium. "So what did you think?" Alex asked, grinning. Marcus laughed softly. "I think I'll need some time to process all of this," he admitted. "But seriously, thank you for everything. I don't know what I did to deserve such amazing people in my life." Jordan shrugged, pretending to be nonchalant. "You deserve it, Marcus. We're just glad we got to be part of it." As the three of them walked toward the parking lot together, Marcus paused for a moment to glance at the blue sedan parked nearby. The car represented so much more than transportation. It symbolized hope, generosity, and the power of human connection. For the first time in a long while, Marcus allowed himself to feel optimistic about the future. With the support of his newfound friends and the love of his mother driving him forward, he knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. And as he drove home that evening, the sun setting in hues of orange and pink, Marcus couldn't help but smile. Life was far from perfect, but it was beautiful in its imperfection. He had learned that even in the darkest times, there was always light, if you were willing to look for it. And at Lincoln High, he had found more light than he ever thought possible. The story of Marcus Johnson and the students who changed his life served as a reminder that kindness doesn't have to be grand or complicated to make a difference. Sometimes, it starts with a single act, a bake sale, a donation, a simple thank you. From there it grows, spreading warmth and hope to everyone it touches. And though the journey may be unpredictable, the impact lasts forever. The final weeks of the school year at Lincoln High were filled with a sense of reflection and gratitude. For Marcus Johnson, it was a time to look back on everything that had happened since the students surprised him with the car. The changes, in his life, and in the lives of those around him, were undeniable. What started as a single act of kindness had grown into something much bigger, weaving its way through the entire school community like threads in a tapestry. Marcus's mother, Mrs. Evelyn Johnson, was doing better than she had in months. With the help of the community fund, her medical bills were manageable and she no longer worried about burdening her son. Marcus visited her every evening after work, driving the blue sedan that had become a symbol of hope for both of them. During these visits, they talked about the future, something neither of them had dared to do before. Evelyn often teased Marcus about how proud she was of him. "You've always been my good boy," she'd say with a smile. But now the whole world knows it. Back at school, Marcus continued to go about his duties with the same quiet dedication he always had. But there was a noticeable difference in how he carried himself. He walked taller, smiled more, and seemed lighter somehow. As if the weight he had been carrying for so long had finally been lifted. And though he still preferred to stay out of the spotlight, he couldn't avoid the occasional moment when someone stopped him in the hallway or cafeteria to thank him for his hard work. One afternoon, as Marcus cleaned the science lab, a freshman named Emily approached him nervously. She held out a small envelope. "This is for you," she said shyly. "It's not much, but I wanted to say thank you." Marcus took the envelope, puzzled. Inside was a handwritten note and a gift card to a local grocery store. The note read, "Thank you for always being kind and helping us, even when we don't. Notice, you make Lincoln High a better place." Marcus looked up at Emily, touched by her thoughtfulness. "You didn't have to do this," he said gently, "but I appreciate it more than you know." Emily grinned, clearly relieved. "I just wanted to let you know you're not invisible," she replied, before hurrying off to class. Moments like this happened often now. Students left notes of appreciation taped to lockers, slipped small gifts into his coat pocket, or simply said thank you when passing by. It wasn't just Marcus who benefited from these gestures. The students felt happier too. There was something rewarding about recognizing the efforts of others, especially someone who rarely sought recognition. As the end-of-year celebrations approached, Principal Williams decided to honor Marcus once again during the annual awards ceremony. This time, however, the tribute would be different. Instead of presenting Marcus with another plaque or certificate, the principal invited several students to share their thoughts about him. Alex Carter, Jordan Mitchell, Rachel Lee, and Kevin Morales stood on stage together, each taking turns to speak. Alex went first, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "When we started this project, we just wanted to do something nice for Marcus. We had no idea it would turn into what it has today. Marcus taught us that kindness doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. He shows up every day, works hard, and cares deeply without expecting anything in return. That's true strength." Jordan nodded in agreement. "Marcus reminded us that everyone has struggles, even people we might not think about. He inspired us to look beyond ourselves and see the value in others. Because of him, our school feels like a family." Rachel added, "And because of Marcus, we've learned to take care of each other. Whether it's volunteering, mentoring, or just being kind, we've realized that everyone can make a difference if they try." Finally, Kevin stepped forward, holding up a small photo album. "We made this for you, Marcus," he said, handing it to him. Inside were pictures of the fundraising events, the big reveal of the car, and countless moments of laughter and connection shared over the past few months. On the last page was a handwritten message. "To Marcus, our hero, our friend, our family." Tears streamed down Marcus's face as he flipped through the pages. When he looked up at the crowd, applause erupted throughout the auditorium. Teachers, students, and parents rose to their feet, cheering loudly. Marcus tried to speak, but words failed him. Instead, he simply raised a hand in thanks his eyes shining with emotion. After the ceremony, Marcus lingered in the hallway, surrounded by well-wishers. Alex and Jordan joined him, beaming with pride. "So what did you think?" Alex asked, nudging him playfully. Marcus laughed softly, shaking his head. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "All I ever wanted was to do my job and help where I could. I never imagined any of this." Jordan grinned. "Well, get used to it because you're stuck with us now." That night, as Marcus drove home in his blue sedan, he reflected on everything that had changed, not just in his own life, but in the lives of those around him. The students who had once overlooked him now greeted him warmly. Teachers treated him as an equal, seeking his advice and input. Even strangers within the community had reached out, inspired by his story. Through it all, Marcus remained humble, grateful for the love and support he had received. But perhaps the most profound change was within Marcus himself. For years he had kept his struggles hidden, believing that asking for help was a sign of weakness. Now he understood that vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was strength. By opening up about his challenges, he had allowed others to step in and offer their support. In doing so, he had created a bond that transcended roles and titles, uniting an entire community under the banner of kindness. As the summer break began, Lincoln High prepared for a new chapter. Students graduated, teachers planned for the next school year, and Marcus continued his work knowing that his presence mattered more than ever. The car, the community fund, and the countless acts of kindness had transformed not only his life, but also the culture of the school itself. On the last day of the semester, Marcus stood in the empty parking lot, gazing at the blue sedan. It represented so much more than transportation. It symbolized hope, generosity, and the power of human connection. For the first time in a long while, Marcus allowed himself to dream about the future. With the support of his newfound friends and the love of his mother driving him forward, he knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. And as he drove home that evening, the sun setting in hues of orange and pink, Marcus couldn't help but smile. Life was far from perfect, but it was beautiful in its imperfection. He had learned that even in the darkest times there was always light, if you were willing to look for it. And at Lincoln High, he had found more light than he ever thought possible. The story of Marcus Johnson and the students who changed his life served as a reminder that kindness doesn't have to be grand or complicated to make a difference. Sometimes it starts with a single act, a bake sale, a donation, a simple thank you. From there it grows, spreading warmth and hope to everyone it touches. And though the journey may be unpredictable, the impact lasts forever. At Lincoln High, the legacy of kindness lived on. Students carried the lessons they had learned into their futures, sharing them with others wherever they went. Teachers continued to foster a culture of compassion, ensuring that no one felt invisible or forgotten. And Marcus, he remained the heart of the school, quietly reminding everyone that even the smallest acts of kindness can leave a lasting mark. In the end, it wasn't just about the car or the awards. It was about the connections formed, the lives touched, and the understanding that everyone, no matter their role or title, deserves to be seen, valued, and loved.